I was sitting in my car on Christmas morning. The engine was off, and the windows were starting to fog up from my own shaky breath. In the back seat, a perfectly browned, foil-wrapped turkey was blasting heat, a peace offering I had spent hours on. My hands were trembling so badly I had to clench the steering wheel to stop them. I knew, with a certainty that felt like a rock in my stomach, that I couldn't go in there. I couldn't walk through that door. After 7 years of trying, of bending over backward, of desperately trying to be the perfect daughter-in-law, a single text message from my mother-in-law 10 minutes earlier had just shattered the whole fragile fantasy of a happy family Christmas. It wasn't just a text. It was the last straw on a pile that had been building for years, and in that moment, I knew something had to break. It was either going to be me, or it was going to be this entire family dynamic. Before I tell you what that text said, and how we got to this breaking point, welcome to Karma Chronicles. If you've ever had that sick feeling in your stomach during the holidays, that feeling of dread when you're supposed to be feeling joy, hit that subscribe button. Here, we share stories about navigating these tricky family situations, and I promise you, you are not alone. To really get why one text could send our Christmas into a tailspin, you have to understand the history. For the first few years I was married to Mark, I honestly thought I'd won the in-law lottery. His parents, David and Carol, were nice. They were so welcoming. When Mark first brought me home, they threw their arms and their house open. And for me, coming from a much smaller, quieter family, their big, chaotic energy was completely enchanting. Our Christmases, for those first couple of years, looked like they were straight out of a movie. They were always at their sprawling, beautifully decorated house. The tree was huge, dripping with ornaments that Carol had a story for. The whole house smelled like pine and cinnamon. David always had a fire roaring, and there was always a crowd. Aunts, uncles, cousins, friends. It was just a constant whirlwind of people, laughter, and so much food. In the beginning, my job was easy. Just show up, be nice, and help with the dishes. I was the new wife, kind of the guest of honor. I'd bring a dessert I'd worked really hard on, and Carol would make a huge deal out of it. "Look what our Sarah made, doesn't it look professional?" she'd announce to everyone, and I'd just flush with pride. I wanted so badly to fit in, to be accepted, and to prove I was a worthy addition to their family. And for a little while, it really felt like I was. Mark and I were a team, but when it came to his family, he usually just went along with their way of doing things. "It's just easier," he'd say with a shrug. "Mom has this whole system. It's best not to mess with it." And I agreed. I saw how much work Carol put into everything. She was the matriarch, the director of this huge holiday play. Her system was a color-coded schedule that she'd sometimes tape to the fridge, mapping out everything from meal times to the exact minute we'd open presents. At first, it seemed quirky and charming, like proof of her dedication. But looking back, the signs were there right from the start. They were just so small, so easy to brush off as personality quirks or generational things. Like the time I brought my family's traditional tourtière, a savory meat pie for Christmas Eve. After praising it, Carol mentioned they weren't really a savory pie family and pointed everyone toward her appetizers. My pie just sat there, barely touched. Or the passive comment about a sweater Mark bought me for my birthday. "Oh, that's modern asterisk. I've always seen you in warmer colors, dear." These weren't attacks. They were little redirections, tiny power plays disguised as helpful hints. And because I was so desperate for them to like me, I adapted. The next year, I brought a trifle, not a pie. I started wearing more burgundy and forest green. I learned to read her subtle signs, to guess what she wanted, and to mold myself into the daughter-in-law I thought she wanted. I became a professional people-pleaser, and my #1 client was my mother-in-law. The core rule of the holiday was unspoken. Christmas belongs to David and Carol. It was their house, their traditions, their schedule. Our presence wasn't requested, it was required. In our first year of marriage, I shyly asked Mark if maybe we could spend Christmas morning in our new apartment, just the two of us, to start our own little tradition. He looked at me like I'd suggested we burn down the tree. "But we can't," he said, totally confused. "Christmas is at my parents' house." It always is. The thought of doing it any other way just didn't compute, so I dropped it. I told myself it wasn't a big deal, that being part of a big, close family means you have to make sacrifices. Us didn't realize I was the only one making them. The foundation we were building wasn't a compromise, it was my compliance. And every year I complied, the expectation got stronger, hardening from a tradition into a law. The change from charming family quirks to suffocating expectations was so slow that for a long time I just blamed myself. I thought I was being too sensitive, that I was the problem. The first big crack showed up around our third Christmas. We had decided to give more meaningful gifts, experiences instead of stuff. For his parents, we bought a voucher for a weekend getaway at a beautiful bed and breakfast in a wine region we knew they loved. We were so excited to give it to them. On Christmas morning, Carol opened the envelope, read the voucher, and gave this tight little smile. "Oh, that's thoughtful," she said, her voice missing all its usual sparkle. Later, I overheard her telling her sister in the kitchen, "I just don't know when we'd find the time, and David's back isn't what it used to be. You know how he is with strange beds." The voucher was never used. The next year, we got them a fancy cashmere blanket. She gushed over it. The message couldn't have been clearer. Gifts should be things she can see, control, and show off. Our attempt at something personal was just seen as an inconvenience. The next year, the real trouble started over my family. My parents lived several states away, so seeing them for the holidays was always a puzzle. We'd worked out a deal where we'd spend Christmas with Mark's family, then fly to see mine for New Year's. Not perfect, but it was the compromise I'd made. That year, though, my grandmother's health got really bad, and it was pretty clear she wasn't going to have many more Christmases. I was heartbroken. I told Mark we had asterisk to go to my parents for Christmas. It wasn't a question. That talk with Mark was tense. He understood, but he was also terrified of telling his mother. He was stuck in the middle, and this is where I now see the triangulation really started. He was the messenger, the buffer, caught between his wife and his mom. He finally called her, and the fallout was immediate. Carol didn't call me. Oh no, she called Mark over and over. He'd take the calls in another room, but I could hear his strained voice. He'd come back looking pale and stressed. She's really upset," he'd say. "She says we're abandoning them, that the whole family will be let down. She asked if your grandmother could just wait until after the 25th to be sick." He said that the last part was a joke, but it felt awful. She wasn't dealing with us as a couple. She was going straight to her son, making him feel guilty and painting me as the bad guy who was tearing the family apart. And he, in turn, brought all that stress right into our marriage. We stood our ground and went to my family's. It was a bittersweet Christmas, but the whole trip was shadowed by the fight we'd left behind. Mark was distant, always checking his phone. His mom was sending him pictures of their Christmas, the one we were missing, with captions like, "Thinking of you, not the same without you here." It was a masterclass in passive aggression. We were being punished for choosing my family's needs over her wants. When we got back, we tried to set a soft boundary. The next Christmas, we were back at his parents' house, but we told them way in advance that we'd be leaving by 8 p.m. on Christmas Day to have a quiet night at home. "Of course," Carol said. "We totally understand." But she didn't. At 7:30 p.m., just as we were starting to pack up, she announced it was time for a Christmas movie marathon, a tradition that had magically appeared out of thin air. "We'll just put on the first one, you can't miss it," she chirped, looking right at Mark. Everyone sat down. We were completely trapped. Mark just looked at me helpless. He didn't want to cause a scene, so we stayed. We stayed for the whole damn movie, and didn't get home until almost 11 p.m., exhausted and fuming. The car ride home was dead silent. Finally, Mark broke it. "I'm sorry," he said. I didn't know what to do. She puts me on the spot." "I know," I said, the words feeling pointless. "But Mark, asterisk, we are a family. You and me, we are supposed to be the priority. It feels like we're still just kids in her house, playing by her rules." That was the night I realized that soft boundaries don't work. Explaining doesn't work. Hoping she'll get it doesn't work. Her need for control was so much stronger than our attempts to compromise. Every time we bent, the line just moved. We'd give an inch, she'd take a mile. The dread in my stomach wasn't just holiday stress anymore. It was the feeling of being slowly erased. My needs, my traditions, our life together, all of it was being politely smothered under the heavy blanket of her expectations. And with another Christmas just around the corner, we agreed. This why. Year had to be different. We had a plan. A clear, simple plan, or so I thought. And that's where we were, heading into our 7th Christmas. Before I tell you about the text message that changed everything, if this story is resonating with you, take a second to subscribe to Karma Chronicles. We're all about sharing these kinds of pivotal moments and the lessons we learn from them. Okay, let's get back to the story. Our plan for this Christmas, our 7th one, came out of hours of painful, honest talks. It was a compromise meant to keep the peace while also letting us, breathe. We would go to his parents on Christmas Day, like always, but we'd get there later. We told them, weeks ahead of time, that we were going to have a quiet Christmas morning at our house, just the two of us, and then drive over around 2 p.m. in time for the big late afternoon meal. To me, this was an incredibly reasonable request. We were still giving them most of the day. We were still bringing food. We were still showing up. We were just asking for a few hours, just the morning. Mark made the call. It was tense. Carol got really quiet. "Oh," she said, and you could hear a whole world of disappointment in that one word. "Christmas morning, but that's when the cousins all see each other. That's when we have the special breakfast." Mark held his ground. He was nervous, but he did it. "Mom, this is important to us. We want to start our own tradition. We'll be there at 2. We're looking forward to it." There was this long pause and then a sigh. "All right, Mark. If that's what you and Sarah really need to do, we'll see you at 2. It felt like a win. A small, fragile one, but still. We were so naive. Christmas morning came and it was peaceful. We woke up on our own. We made coffee and sat by our little tree in our pajamas. We opened our gifts to each other. It was quiet. It was calm. It was asterisk or asterisk. For the first time, I felt like Christmas morning belonged to us. I started getting the turkey ready, feeling so hopeful. Maybe this was the turning point. At 11:45 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was a group text from Carol to me, Mark, and his siblings. My heart just dropped into my stomach before I even read it. "Hi, everyone. Quick change of plans. Dinner is going to be at 1 p.m. instead of later. The little ones are getting fussy, and it's just easier this way. Also, surprise, the Millers are joining us. Can't wait to see you all soon. Need you here ASAP to help set up. Don't be late." I read it once, then twice. All the air went out of my lungs. It was a surgical strike. Every single part of that text was designed to blow our boundaries to pieces. Changing the time to 1 p.m., knowing we planned to arrive at 2, was a power move. It made us late, made us the bad guys who missed dinner. Announcing extra guests, the Millers, who were famously dramatic and who she knew I found exhausting, was just another twist of the knife. And that final command, "Need you here ASAP. Don't be late." It wasn't an invitation. It was a summons. It was a complete, total dismissal of the one boundary we had fought so hard for. She was reminding us exactly who was in charge. I looked at the clock. It was almost noon. To get there by 1, we'd have to drop everything and leave right that second. My peaceful morning, our new tradition, was being canceled. That's when I walked out to the car. I didn't even know what I was doing, I just had to get out of my own kitchen. I sat in the driver's seat, the smell of my roasting turkey mocking me from the back, and I just started to shake. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was just this deep, soul-crushing defeat. After all the talks, all the stress, all the work, she just wiped it all away with one cheerful text. She showed me, with perfect clarity, that our needs would never, ever matter as much as her wants. Mark came out a few minutes later and opened the passenger door, his face a mess of confusion and stress. "Did you see the text?" he asked softly. I couldn't even look at him. I just nodded, staring at my white knuckles on the steering wheel. "She's not going to stop, Mark," I whispered. "It's never going to stop." "We can still make it," he said, his voice pleading. "If we leave right now, we can probably get there by 1:15. And that's when the despair finally hardened into something else. A cold, clear resolve. I turned and looked at him, and I think he was shocked by what he saw in my eyes. "No," I said. My voice was quiet but perfectly steady. "No, we're not going." "What? Sarah, we can't just not go. It's Christmas. They're expecting us. The whole family." "They were expecting us at 2 p.m., I cut him off. "She changed the rules. She waited until the last possible minute to change the rules so we couldn't stick to our boundary without looking like jerks. This isn't about dinner, Mark. This is a game, and I am done playing." The tears finally came, hot and angry. "I'm so tired," I sobbed. "I am so tired of trying to be good enough. I'm tired of my feelings not mattering. I am your wife. We are supposed to be a team. But when it comes to her, I feel like I'm always on the outside and you're just stuck in the middle trying to make her happy. I can't do it anymore. It is breaking me." He just stared at me, and for the first time, I think he really, truly saw it. He saw the years of frustration, the hurt, the way my spirit had been slowly worn down. He saw what it was costing me, and what it was costing us. The conflict on his face just dissolved, replaced by the same cold resolve I felt. He pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking now, too. He went to the group chat. He typed, deleted, and typed again. Finally, he showed me the screen. "Mom, we won't be able to make it today. As we discussed, we plan to arrive at 2 p.m. after having our Christmas morning at home. We're sorry to miss the celebration, but we've decided to have Christmas at our own house this year. We'll call you tomorrow." My breath caught in my throat. He didn't make excuses. He didn't lie. He stated our boundary, referenced our original plan, and announced our decision. He used the word "we." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. "Okay," he asked. I nodded, a new wave of tears, this time tears of pure relief spilling down my face. "Okay," I whispered. He hit send. The message was gone, and in the silence that followed, it felt like the whole world had just shifted. We had no idea what would happen next. We just knew we couldn't go back to the way things were. The second Mark hit send, this weird, heavy silence fell over the car. The kind of silence where you feel like you're holding your breath. We both just sat there, staring at the phone, waiting for the explosion we knew was coming. It didn't take long. Less than a minute later, Mark's phone started vibrating like crazy on the center console. His mother's name flashed on the screen. He looked at me, his eyes wide. I just shook my head. He silenced the call. It immediately started ringing again. He silenced it again. Then my phone buzzed. It was her. I silenced it. Then came the texts, first to Mark. "What does this mean? Are you not coming? Call me right now. Mark, I don't understand. The turkey is on the table. Everyone is waiting." "You are ruining Christmas. Your father is so disappointed. The children want to see you." Then, when I didn't answer her call, she started texting me. Her texts had a different flavor, more wounded, more passive-aggressive. "Sarah, I'm so sorry if we did something to offend you. I just don't understand why you would do this to the family on Christmas Day. I hope you know how much this is hurting everyone. I've worked so hard on this meal." It felt like a siege. Our phones were just buzzing and pinging nonstop. Then his sister called. Then his aunt sent a text. The family text chain, which was usually for sharing baby pictures, had been turned into a weapon, and we were the targets. Mark put his phone on silent and just tossed it on the dashboard. I did the same. We sat in the car for another 10 minutes, just listening to the phantom vibrations in our heads. The urge to explain ourselves, to justify or argue or defend what we did, was overwhelming. It's what we'd always done. But we knew, deep down, that engaging would mean losing. Any response would just be more fuel for the fire. Silence was our only shield. "Let's go inside," I said, my voice still shaky. We walked back into our house, which now felt like a fortress. The half-cooked turkey was still in the car, totally forgotten. Inside, our little tree was lit, and our presents were still in a messy pile on the floor. It was a different universe from the chaos we knew was happening at his parents' house. The rest of the day was completely surreal. It was this weird mix of emotions. There was this thick blanket of guilt, a knot of anxiety in my stomach that just wouldn't quit. I kept picturing his mother's hurt face, his father's quiet disappointment. I imagined everything they were all saying about me, about us. The people-pleaser in me was absolutely screaming. But underneath all that guilt was something else. A quiet, steady hum of relief, of peace. The house was silent. There was no one to perform for, no schedule to follow, no passive-aggressive comments to dodge. We were free. We honestly didn't know what to do with ourselves. Christmas had always been this huge, planned-out public event. Now it was just us. We put on some music. Mark went and got the now lukewarm turkey out of the car. I threw together some side dishes with whatever we had. We ate our Christmas dinner at our own dining table, in our pajamas, at 4 in the afternoon. It wasn't some big, "we won" celebration. It was quiet and kind of sad. We were mourning the Christmas we were supposed to have, the perfect family we wished we had. But we were also for the V. Uri first time, feeling the deep, profound peace that comes from choosing yourselves. We were a team. It wasn't me against his family anymore. It was asterisk us asterisk. We were our own family, having our own Christmas. It was messy and emotional, but it was ours. That night, for the first time in years, I went to bed on Christmas Day not feeling totally drained, but feeling a tiny, fragile sense of hope. The silence from our phones was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. The day after our silent night was Boxing Day, and the silence from their end was broken. Mark, psyching himself up, called his mother. I didn't listen in, but I watched him. I saw him stand his ground, his voice calm and firm in a way I'd never heard with her. He didn't apologize for our decision. He said he was sorry that it had hurt them, which is a small but really important difference. He repeated that we love them, but that as a married couple, we needed to create our own traditions, and our requests had to be respected. He didn't blame her or bring up the text. He just stated our truth as a team. The call was not easy. She cried. She said she felt disrespected and abandoned. But without the chaos of Christmas Day and an audience of 20 relatives, things were different. Mark didn't get sucked into the drama. He just listened and then calmly repeated our reality. "Mom, we are not abandoning you. We are building our own family, just like you and Dad did. We want you to be a part of it, but it has to work for us, too." The next few weeks were frosty. The texts were few and far between, but something huge had shifted. The power dynamic was broken. We had shown them, and more importantly, we had shown ourselves that we would not set ourselves on fire just to keep them warm. When the Easter invitation came, we were ready. We talked about it first together. We decided what we were willing to do, what our limits were, and Mark communicated our plan clearly and without apology. We would come for dinner, but we wouldn't be staying all day. And when we got there, and I saw that flicker of the old disappointment in Carol's eyes, I didn't feel that familiar stab of guilt. I just felt solid. I knew my husband was standing right there with me. The next Christmas was the real test. Early that fall, we made a decision. We booked a little cabin in the mountains for just the two of us, from Christmas Eve to the day after Christmas. Then, we invited both my parents and his to our house for a holiday dinner the weekend before Christmas. We were taking total control. We were making a new tradition, on our terms, in our home. His parents accepted. They came. It was a little awkward at first, but we were the hosts. It was our schedule, our food, our rules. And a funny thing happened. Without all the pressure of the perfect Christmas performance, everyone actually seemed to relax. Carol even complimented one of my side dishes, and it sounded genuine. It wasn't the giant, chaotic party of the past. It was smaller, quieter, and so much more real. Setting that one boundary, deciding not to go to their house on Christmas Day, was one of the hardest things we've ever done in our marriage. It felt like throwing a bomb into the heart of our family. But it wasn't a bomb. It was a foundation stone. It was the moment we stopped being two people pulled in different directions and became one single family unit. It taught us that protecting your own peace isn't selfish, it's essential. It showed us that real family traditions aren't about rigid schedules and fake smiles. They're about real connection, and that can only happen when there's mutual respect. Our Christmases are quieter now. They're smaller, but they are filled with a kind of peace I truly thought was impossible. And that is a gift no amount of holiday cheer could ever replace. So that's our story. I know it was long, and I know so many of you watching have your own version of this. The details might be different, but the feelings, the guilt, the obligation, the dread, are so universal. I would be so grateful if you would share a piece of your own experience in the comments. How have you handled holiday boundaries? What did you learn? By reading through them, we can all see that we are not alone. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Karma Chronicles for more stories like this. Thank you for listening and for being here with me. Remember to be kind to yourselves, and remember that you have every right to build a holiday that actually feels peaceful to you.